Chapter 5. Her eyes sparkled as she stood in front of the classroom. The caffeine was kicking in, but it was more than just a coffee buzz. Beth loved teaching. Though she had never planned to go into education, it was truly her calling. And after Jeremy, it became more than her calling. It became her whole world. Behind her, the presentation screen was lit with an image of an ancient text opened in the middle, smoke and stars pouring from the pages. "Good morning, class," she said, looking at the faces, some still half asleep. "Today, I want to talk to you about..." She paused and then spread her arms wide. "Magic." They stared at her blankly, and she dropped her hands to her hips. "Come on, who doesn't love magic?" A kid in the back yawned, but at least had the decency to look embarrassed when she met his eyes. Beth was undeterred, confident she'd get them engaged. She almost always did. "Writing," she said, pausing for effect, "is magic." "What do I mean by that?" The small young woman with the short dark hair raised her hand. Beth nodded. "Go ahead, Michelle." Like Harry Potter?" Beth laughed. "Well, yes, of course, Harry Potter, that's literally magical. But the magic I'm talking about is more figurative." She changed the slide to a quote from Yeats. "The world is full of magical things, patiently waiting for our senses to grow sharper." Okay, what does Yeats mean by that? Beth waited, watching the wheels turn. She had found that one of the hardest things to do while teaching was to pause and give the students space to come up with the answers. Another young woman, this one with long blonde hair and perfectly tanned skin, raised her hand. Beth tried to remember her name. Christy? No, Kelsey? She nodded at the young woman who said, "That we need to look at the beauty of things?" Then Christy Kelsey glanced over at Todd, self-consciously. "Yes, that's definitely on the right track. Can anyone expand on that?" Half of the class looked blank and the other half looked at their laps and probably their phones. Beth waited again. This time, the lanky guy in the back of the class wearing a Sex Pistols shirt raised his hand. She nodded to him. "Yeats is saying that we are not observant enough to see the magic in the world around us." Good, good. And can you tell me why I would pick that quote to start with? Because to be good writers, we have to be good observers? Sex Pistols stole a glance at Todd. Seriously, people? He's just some guy. Exactly. Thank you. But even more than just observers, we need to be explorers and discoverers. We need to hone our senses so that we can discover magic everywhere, in the extraordinary, and even more importantly, in the mundane. It's writing that's filled with magic that we actually remember. That kind of writing changes us. And I'm not just talking about Harry Potter or Narnia or Middle-earth. I'm talking about writing so vivid it has the power to transport your readers, whether it's to Hogwarts to learn spells or to the floor of a gas station restroom where your character is having a meltdown. Writers who can harness that magic touch something deep inside us. She grinned at her students. Some smiled back. Some still looked asleep. Beth continued, undeterred. You must be able to find the magic in the world around you. And I don't just mean in sunsets and fields of tulips. I mean in the ugly, dirty parts of life, too. If you can't see the magic everywhere, you will never be able to put words together in a truly meaningful way. I try to see the magic in everyday stuff, in a really great cup of tea, in a day that's warm but not too hot when I can roll the windows down and crank the music, in watching my dog sleep, especially if he's dreaming and chasing a squirrel and his little paws are twitching. She stopped and smiled. A few of them were actually smiling back now. But also in things like cleaning out my fridge or emptying the trash. There can be magic in the satisfaction that you get from making more space in your world. Does that make sense? A few students nodded. So now I want to ask you, who here has experienced some magic recently? The girl next to Sex Pistols raised her hand timidly. Yes, Denise? She smiled shyly. I got to go with my sister to her ultrasound yesterday. We found out she's having a baby girl. Denise, that's wonderful. You can't really get more magical than new life, can you? Denise beamed and her eyes darted briefly to Todd Allman. Beth suppressed an urge to cringe. Is this her first baby? Denise nodded. And your first time being an aunt? She nodded again. And how did that make you feel? Gosh, she stammered, pink rising up her neck. It's really cool. I could see her little heartbeat. My whole family is just so excited. Beth smiled and addressed the class. The magic of new life will always be a great topic to write about, especially if Denise can put into words the excitement and the emotion a family feels when they find out their world is about to be rocked by a little baby girl. But magic doesn't have to just be in the big moments where you discover that your life is expanding by a whole other person. It can also be in the little things. Who else has experienced some magic today? The vending machine gave me 2 bags of chips when I only paid for 1, Michelle said. Beth laughed. Okay, that's a good start, Michelle. Now what made that feel so special? Well, I was running late to class and didn't have time to grab breakfast, and I was really hungry, but I only had $1. So when the 2 bags of chips dropped from that little spinny wheel thing in the vending machine, that sort of felt like magic. She looked directly at Beth without a hint of a peek in the movie star's direction. And for that, and for her wit, Beth liked her very much. Good. That's exactly what I'm talking about. It's so simple, and some people might just call it a coincidence and not think twice about it. But who can relate to Michelle's story? She waited a moment as the students raised their hands. Right? Most of us can totally relate to that magical feeling when the universe hands us a little surprise, even if it's as simple as an extra bag of chips, which can mean a lot when you're hungry, am I right? Some of the class nodded. And Michelle may want to write an entire story based on the vending machine experience. The class laughed. Hey, stories have been written about less. Or maybe Michelle just wants to remember that feeling of, huzzah, double chips, and incorporate that into a much larger story. Beth changed the slide on the screen. Words and magic were in the beginning one and the same. And even today, words retain much of their magical power. Sigmund Freud. Words are magic, which means writers are magicians, but it's not always the way you think. Sometimes the magic of words is just something so true, so honest and vulnerable that we wonder, how can I have never thought that before? Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe the author puts into words something that you never stop thinking about, and you wonder, how did they know exactly what my heart feels? Either way, those authors touch you with their magic. If you want to be a good writer, you need to get in harmony with the magic you see in the world around you and the magic you don't see, but you know is there. Beth clicked to the final slide of the presentation. Magic is believing in yourself. If you can do that, you can make anything happen. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. But most importantly, you need to get in touch with the magic you have inside you. You need to really believe that you have the power to put that magic on the page, that your words are powerful enough to connect with your audience no matter the topic. So this week, I want you to write about some magic, but in a place where you don't normally find magic. Someplace mundane. For Denise, that might be a doctor's office. For Michelle, it might be a vending machine on a college campus. You can create a scene from personal experience or just pluck something from thin air. It's your choice. But I want the location to be the center of the story. I want the location to be the center of the story. Don't focus on dialogue. We'll get to dialogue later. For now, I want the magic to be in the location or what's happening in the location. Any questions? Beth waited for the students to pack up their belongings and shuffle out before pulling out her phone to check for messages. When she looked up, she was surprised to see Todd Allman standing in front of her. Oh, hi, Todd. What can I do for you? Hi, I have to go to Japan. He had shoved his hands into his pockets and was rocking back and forth on his heels. Is he nervous? She wondered. And then with a twinge of guilt, maybe I shouldn't have been so hard on him the other day. Okay, she said slowly. Right now? He laughed and stood up a little straighter. No, I'm leaving on Monday, but I know the assignment is due next Thursday, so I didn't know if you wanted me to turn it in early before I leave or email it to you or what. The classroom door opened and a perky young woman peered in at them. Beth summoned her most teacherly voice. Can I help you? The girl didn't even answer, just popped back into the hall, letting the door close with a bang. Todd sighed. It was clear she was waiting for him, and it was clear he didn't know her. Jesus, how can you stand it? She thought briefly of asking him, but instead said, business or pleasure? What? He looked startled, his raised eyebrows almost disappearing under his baseball hat. Are you going to Japan for business or pleasure? She clarified. Oh, for work. I have to go for work. All right, she said. I don't usually accept work via email. It's just easier for me to grade hard copies. But in your case, it's fine. Do you think you can get it to me by Friday? He nodded. Yeah, thanks, Miss Grant. I'll be back next week, and I shouldn't have to miss any more classes this semester. Well, maybe one. She waved her hand at him, half dismissing the absences, half shooing him out of the classroom. That's fine. I'll see you when you get back. She gathered her things and followed him out of the class. In the hallway, there were several people waiting, and as Beth left Todd and the gaggle behind, she almost felt sorry for him. Later that week, she was in her office grading papers when her phone buzzed. George had sent her a text. In your area, can you meet for coffee? She flipped through the stack of assignments in front of her that she had planned to finish. I guess they can wait. As she shut down her computer with a little thrill of excitement, there was a knock. Damn it. Come in. Jean opened the door and sat down. Beth sighed in unison with the cushion of the chair. I'm glad I caught you. How's your semester so far? Great, she said hesitantly, certain that that was not the real reason for his visit, but not sure how to hurry him along. But I'm actually just getting ready to leave for an appointment. Good. Well, this won't take too long, he said, taking off his glasses and cleaning them on his shirt. We just need to touch base about our star pupil. So how is Todd Allman doing? Of course. He's fine. Why do you ask? I was thinking we need to come up with an action plan on how to handle his education. That way you and I are on the same page. How have you been helping him get acclimated? Have there been any problems that I need to know about? What the hell is an action plan? Beth was confused. Was I too harsh with him when I met with him the other day? Did he complain? She had thought they had ended on a positive note, but now she wasn't so sure. Some groupies crowding the hallway, but I suppose that's to be expected? She hadn't actually paid much attention to Todd, other than brushing off the annoyances of having a celebrity in her classroom. Hastily going back over their interactions for something else to add, she said, and I offered to let him into the classroom early to avoid them. I don't anticipate it continuing to be a problem. Okay, well, about his work, are you providing him with whatever he needs? Actually, he's on his way out of town for work, but I told him he can turn his assignment in via email, and I gave him extra time on it since he'll be traveling. She silently thanked Todd for telling her about his trip to Japan. Okay, good. Well, I'm counting on you to make sure he's comfortable. Don't forget, he's not a regular student. The same rules don't apply for him. She rubbed her forehead to keep from rolling her eyes. Of course, Jean, whatever he needs. Beth was going to have to keep better tabs on Todd if these little meetings with Jean were going to be a regular thing. She looked at her watch. Now she was going to be late. Fucking Todd Allman. All right, good, he said, rubbing his hands together. His nails were cut or maybe bitten to the quick, making his chubby pink fingers look like sausages. Well, I've got to be off. She was already shutting down her computer when he hefted himself out of the chair. Vroom! The big engine of the 4x4 roared satisfyingly to life. Beth rolled down both windows, wound her hair into a bun, and slipped on her sunglasses. She cranked up the volume and put the old truck in gear. The sun was shining, a breeze was blowing, and Ludacris began to pump through her speakers. She was thinking of nothing but leaving work behind and meeting George, and just maybe kissing him again. Beth bobbed her head and sang along at the stoplight, waiting to turn out of campus. She was about to grab her phone and text George that she was running late when she saw movement out of the corner of her eye. Someone in the car next to her was waving. She looked over to see familiar dark eyes peering up at her from under a tattered baseball cap. Todd Allman was leaning out of the passenger window of a shiny black Porsche. She felt a hot flush creep across her cheeks and turned down the music. Professor Grant! He grinned up at her, waving one muscular arm out the window. Hi, Todd, she said, laughing at herself. I thought you were in Japan. We're on our way to the airport right now, he said, gesturing to the guy next to him, who was now leaning forward and looking at her over his designer sunglasses. This is my manager, Danny. She waved. Hi, Danny. I just wanted to stop by and give you my paper, but you weren't in your office, Todd continued. I slid it under your door. I hope that's okay. That's fine, she said, wondering why he hadn't just emailed it to her. When do you get back? Not until next week. The traffic light turned green and she shifted into gear. Okay, see you then.